Well, Tom, thanks for jumping on today. It's nice to get to visit with you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I saw this come up on the calendar, and I think this was put together by Chris, our head of marketing, and Emily, and then Baker.
Oh yeah,
over at Black Rifle Coffee did the intro, I think.
yep. Baker's a good dude and a friend
Yeah.
of mine, and yeah, I was listening to that podcast you did with them to get a little more information on who you are exactly. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
familiar with your company. Some of our listeners might not be. So first of all, where are you joining us from?
I am in our call it our corporate office. It's in Syracuse, New York.
Okay.
The company is predominantly a remote organization, so
Mhm.
we've got the bulk of our staff is in. I've got Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, down the Eastern Seaboard. I've got somebody in California, Ohio, and then we've got a small crew here.
So interestingly, though, I was listening to that conversation, and you lived in California and were like pursuing a music career as a guitarist.
I graduated from high school. I started playing guitar when I was, I don't know, 13, 14. In high school, I was playing in bands, and then graduate high school, played in bar bands for several years, and completely immersed myself in the idea that I was going to be a professional guitar player. So
Uh-huh.
I played in a Judas Priest Iron Maiden cover band, which was just a blast. We had so much fun. It was a good band. We had a big crew, big trucks, and never had to touch gear. It was just really cool. Then I played in the Deep Purple, kind of a cover band, and
Smoke on the Water.
oh yeah, and then
Yeah.
I ended up moving out to California and pursued music, and I did okay. You know, it's Guitar Player magazine in 1983 did an article on me as one of the best unsigned, unknown guitar players.
Oh wow.
Kind of coming up through the ranks. So things were looking good, and then I developed really bad tendonitis, and it just basically killed the career. I could not play more than 10 minutes. And
as a young man too.
yeah, it was I was 20, 23. I mean, I was right at the point of things were going good.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff was happening. And but you know what? It's I went through a tough year, but you know, when your back's against the wall, when you're faced with just, you know, a collapse of what you thought the world was, it does force you into it forces you into finding things out. I had to survive. I took the only job I could get, which was telemarketing, typewriter and printer ribbons to businesses for a little company, San Fernando Valley, and started doing that.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So has telemarketing changed from then to now? Because when they call now, I just hang up. Like I don't even. Like,
it was back then. It was new.
Okay.
It was different. It was not. And keep on. We were calling business to business.
Mm.
So I'm calling people who they're being paid to answer the phone. There's a big difference when somebody calls you at your home or calls you on your cell phone. They're interrupting your day. If I'm calling a purchasing agent, that's his job.
Right.
So he is getting paid, and it was different. I was so bad they moved me to a non-sales position because the manager liked me, but I saw where the money was, so I quit and worked for another company, straight commission, selling printers, computer supplies, and immersed myself in the world of sales. I read tons of books, listened to audio tapes to and from work every day, and slowly figured it out. 2 years later, left and started my own company, doing the same thing in an apartment. I had two partners. We were, 3 kids.
Yeah.
In an apartment in a very bad neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley. High crime, high drugs, but that's what we could afford. And it was their apartment. I just drove over there. My office was a little cardboard box with a phone and leads. And every morning I pull the box out and we'd go to work. And a couple of years later, 4 years later, we had 18 sales reps in an office, and it was a viable company. I sold to my partners and went off on my own, started Greenline Data. I'll move fast through this. Doing the same thing, got into the internet and started writing websites in the late 90s. This is before e-com, mid-late 90s, and ended up with taperack.com, which was the metal racks that would hold computer tapes. Back then, companies would have thousands of tapes they'd back their computers up on, and they had to store them all and organize them so you could actually retrieve data. So we had,
this reminds me of like my mom was a dentist, and you used to have everyone's files like in a filing cabinet, right? Like
Same thing. It's the
Yeah.
exact same thing. Like
it's
this was
so
little.
seems so antiquated now, but even 10 years ago, that's
yeah.
how a lot. I mean, that's how the world worked.
It was. So taperack.com, we became one of the largest sellers of tape racks in the country. And then that morphed into when the HIPAA laws came out, the healthcare information laws required all hospitals to lock up. Should move this up to here. So I'm talking to the right. It required hospitals to lock up laptops. And so we created laptopstorage.com, securelaptopstorage.com. And that website started growing. We did very well with the business. And a guy called me, it's like 2001, 2002. And he just said, "Hey, can you guys store an MP5? I'm like, "Sure." "What's an MP5? And he goes, "It's a little machine gun." And I started laughing. I'm like, "Who is this?" And he goes, "He's with the FBI." And I said, "I bet we can." So we started looking into it. And I said, "Give me a week. I think we could do something." I started just doing research. Very quickly found out the military had a significant problem transitioning from the M16 to the M4 battle rifle. And none of the racks they had worked because the rifle was shorter, it was modular, it had attachments. And we went to our manufacturer for the laptop cabinet and say, "Hey, what do you think about weapon racks?" And the guy's name was Steve Moulton. He was the owner. He said, "Tom, I'm already working on this for a project with the Canadian government." The company was in Canada. I said, "You're kidding." I said, so we got together and put together a system that was called the Integrated Weapon Storage Platform. We sold that as a dealer in the US for several years, but I needed to make changes for the US military, and he didn't want to do the changes. We had a couple other issues. So I ended up developing my own solution, which we called it was a secure tactical weapon storage platform. Now it's simply called Cradle Grid. And we launched that in 2008. And we were a tiny company, and we launched that system. And
So at this point in time, are you still in California?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not. I moved from California to New York in 2006.
Okay. Well, you went from the furnace into the fire, moving from California to New York.
Well, I grew up in Western New York outside of Buffalo.
Okay.
And my wife has a huge family. We had 3 little kids. We decided to raise our kids near family. But yeah, someday I'm going to move to America. That's what I always tell people.
I mean, last time I was in California, some homeless guy spit on me because he asked me if I had any cash. And I was like, "All I have is a credit card," which was true.
Yeah.
And his response was, "Oh, I'll just spit on you." And, this is in San Francisco. I was like, "I'm never going back to this state ever."
No, I'm not. And
I saw a mountain lion chowing down on somebody's dog on their back porch the other day, which it gets even better because the mountain lion actually came into the house and grabbed the border collie, drug it out, and then the lady slammed the glass door and is videoing this mountain lion sitting on her back porch. And I think the mountain lion was collared. So like I always say, like California is the perfect if you want to incorrectly manage firearms and wildlife, look no further than California.
It's a shame. It's a beautiful state. There's a lot of neat things that happen. There's a lot of neat things to do there. I lived there for 20 years. I won't go back. Really? I mean, it simply is, I just don't want them to receive any of my money, even if it's just simply getting a cab from the airport. I just don't want to contribute to the economy there. What's happening is so wrong, but people are leaving.
Oh yeah. They're coming here. They're coming to Texas left and right.
Yep. Same here. I mean, I've got a lot of people have moved from New York. We've had a lot of employees move down south from here. They still work for us. And at some point, I've got a lot of family here, just parents that are getting older. There's a point when we will pack up and move somewhere else. It's
interesting because I have friends that live in California, and same thing. Like a wild game chef that I know, Jeremiah Dowdy. He's stuck in California until his wife gets her pension, and that'll be another 8-10 years, and he knows it sucks. He's like, he wants to move to Texas, right? But anyway, okay. So sorry to interrupt you there, but
no. So it was 2008. We launched the secure tactical weapon storage platform. By 2011, we were the primary suppliers to the U.S. military. It just exploded, and the idea for the system, it goes back to, we won a contract with U.S. Army Special Forces in 2000. It was 2007.
Yeah.
They put out a solicitation for a contract. Their armories were failing miserably. So they put
describe what describe where your product sits. Like, is it in a big warehouse or where?
It's in armories. Armories are the most secure location, one of those in a military base.
Mhm.
So it's a concrete room within a building with a thick steel door. And there's security protocols to enter the armory. Once you're in there, it's rows of my weapon racks. It's just weapon racks holding guns. The racks themselves are all secured to, there's 2 security levels. AR 190-11 is Army, and then OpNav is 5313 is Navy and Marine Corps. And those are the requirements that I need to build to.
Okay.
So they put out the solicitation to do an arms room assessment, meaning survey all their armories, tour them, look at them, and give them a report as to why they're failing. Now, we're a 3-person company. Securite was a spinoff from Greenline Data, my previous business. Securite was a 3-person company. We became aware of the solicitation, booked a meeting, got a meeting with a colonel at Fort Bragg, went down there, and I've got my, Gary Myrick with me, who is a sales guy, and he looked like an operator. I mean, he just looked like a trigger puller. He wasn't, but he just looked the part, and he spoke military really well. And so we walk in with this colonel. I just introduced myself. Hi, Colonel, my name's Tom Kubiniec. I'm considered the leading authority in small arms storage and armory design, and I think we can do this contract for you. I think we're the company. And we had a nice conversation for about 15, 20 minutes or so, and we got up, we left, and we walked out, and Gary's like, what was that? And because we didn't know anything about this, really. We were so green. And I just looked and said, Gary, look, there's no experts in this. Nobody knows how to do this. We claimed it. As far as he knows, I'm the guy. There's nobody can argue that I'm not, because there is no subject matter expert. We ended up winning the contract. I mean, we were up against Harris, L3, these big defense contractors that put big money at it. We came in quite a bit less with a decent proposal. So I spent 18 months traveling all over the country, spending a day or two in every armory, sitting with the armors, talking to them, watching them work, watching the workflow, photographing, documenting all the problems. And over that 18 months, that's when we became the pros from door. I became the leading authority on small arms storage because nobody has ever had that kind of access or taken the time to dig into armory and weapon storage problems. Coming out of that,
it's amazing to me that our government has who knows how many of these millions upon millions of these firearms in these armories, and they don't have a way to store them. Like, you would think you would have a storage system. They did. But then that became obsolete when they made a new rifle, and they didn't have the. It was like putting the cart before the horse.
A little bit. It's one of those things, though, that the weapons systems comes out of the weapons development groups within the military. Weapon racks are facilities. That's grouped as the same thing as file cabinets. You know what I mean? So it's a different color. We say it's a different color money. It's a different group of people doing it, and they don't talk really well all the time. So the problem was there, and quite often, they don't solve a problem until they have it. Right. But this scaled so quickly, and the armories were a mess. I mean, there was crap everywhere. High value optics, thermal imaging, stuff just piled on the floor. So, we did our presentation to command, and at the same time launched the Secure Tactical Weapon Storage platform. They loved our solution. And the big difference, now there were 2 other players in the space coming in with us. The Canadian firm and then another US firm, and they made a modular weapons rack where it's a metal rack. It's basically a cabinet with locking doors. And inside, you have different components for all the guns. So it doesn't matter what kind of gun you have. You use like a Mark 19 grenade launcher, you have that bracket. You have M4 has this bracket, 50 cal has this bracket. They had a different bracket for every gun. So they had the one firm had 72 different brackets. The other one had 180 different components. Our solution was a standardized cabinet with one moving part. The one part would hold everything from the smallest submachine gun up to shoulder launch systems. And it was super simple. It required no really directions. So the armor could walk up to a weapon rack with a gun in his hand, adjust it, put it in, step away. And then our system incorporates gear, which nobody else had ever addressed in a really unique way. We use bins you could buy at Home Depot. And inside my rack, you can source all sorts of storage materials from any hardware store. So all of your all of their attachments, optics, the IR illuminators, to slings, to all sorts of this, all this gear would just get stored in and around the weapons or behind the weapons in a really organized way. So when they're doing their inventories, they're doing their site counts, which serialized inventory would take a special forces armory. It could take them 2 days to do. It was a standard system. With my system, they could do it in 2 hours because everything was so visible. And we just rock and roll. The company just exploded. And we were jamming. I had purchased a plane. I'm a pilot, and I was flying all over the Northeast, and we just were on top of the world. And then sequestration hit in the Obama years. And I'm not an Obama supporter, but it wasn't his issue. It was a congressional issue. Sequestration, if you remember, was Congress was struggling to pass a budget.
Right.
So to get this budget through, they said, okay, we have to do these cuts. Well, nobody would agree. So, okay, here's what we're going to do. If we can't get these cuts in the future, if we can't get this thing balanced, these are forced military cuts that will be so severe that we will, of course, get a budget. They never got the budget. The sequestration hit, and it cut the financing off to the military. And we went from just rock stars to, I went 5 months without a single order, just making payroll, paying rent. And I burned through everything I had. We ended up laying off people. I sold everything I owned down to, my wife and I were looking at a little house. We had a house on a lake. It's a nice house. And we were looking at little farmhouses. It was the last asset we had, and just trying to keep things moving.
So
I was down
went
to
bye-bye.
Oh yeah. That was the first thing to go, was the plane. But you know what? We came out of it. We're down to a 4-person company again. And it was at that time we decided to go into retail and say, you know what? No matter how good we are, no matter how cool our product is, no matter what we think or our customer thinks, if Congress shuts off the money, I'm dead. I have there's nothing I can do.
And what's the difference between the military marketplace versus the civilian?
Well, in the civilian marketplace, each person makes a determination whether they're going to spend money or not.
Right.
So if you,
but dollars and cents,
okay, size of the market.
Yeah.
Okay. This is, again, my eyes were wide shut in the early days, and I didn't realize this. The military market in its heyday was about 27 million a year. In its heyday. Right now, the military market is somewhere between 3 and 6 million, maybe. It's really small.
For your product, for your industry.
Yeah.
Okay.
The consumer market, it's hard to get exact numbers, 600 to 900 million a year.
Okay.
So you can,
there's, what do they say? There's 330 million guns. No, that's how many people there are in America. How many guns? I can't remember what that number was.
It's a big number, but it's
very quickly. See, I have a gun safe behind me.
Yeah.
I think most people listening to this show probably have some way to store their weapons, right?
A lot of people don't. It's shocking. And we can talk about, there's some things we can talk about that just surprised me.
Okay, well, do most people, I think a lot of people don't until they get to like, okay, well, now I have 10 guns. What am I going to do with them all? Like,
it's possible. A lot of first-time buyers, though, I think they're doing the right thing. They need to get a safe. They need to lock up their guns. But it's really frustrating for us because one of our missions is to make sure every single gun in America is properly secured. Every gun in America. But just because your guns are locked doesn't mean you can't have silent, fast access. Wrong, 2 to 3 second access silently to those firearms. And that's kind of where we come in.
Do you guys make one of the fingerprint things?
No.
Okay,
never.
Good. Because my wife, before we had kids, I just slept with a handgun on the bedside table. Now we have 3 kids. Once they could walk, she was like, okay, no more. So now all the guns, I'm ashamed to say, stay in the gun safe. And she bought me one of those little, fingerprint things. I couldn't get a damn handgun out of that thing in a minute if I wanted to. I'm like, this is pointless. It is now in the closet where the overflow of my guns are. So now if the kids are older, and this is totally off topic, but how you raise your kids, my kids won't touch a gun. That's just how they are. So she's gotten a little more lenient. There's probably the overflow from the safe now is in the closet, and
it's the fingerprint readers. I get asked that all the time. Why don't you guys do fingerprint readers? Suck. Well, we consider it, again, my background is military. We do all the SEAL teams, we do all the reaction, rapid response teams, reaction force teams. These are fast moving, fast access, lots of gear, lots of guns, lots of dynamics. That's my background. That's what I bring to the table. So we look at consumer civilian handgun storage, we consider this never fail equipment. Never fail means if somebody breaks into your house and they're shooting at you, you can't sit there and goof around with your safe trying to get it open.
Mm-mm.
Fingerprint readers, if your hands are dirty, they won't open. If your hands are wet, they won't open. If you're wearing gloves, they won't open. If your skin is really dry, they won't open. There's a lot of factors that make these things not work. We don't use them because we have a simple locking solutions that if you know the combination, they open up 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a never fail piece of equipment. Again, and that's kind of the way we look at everything that we do is if you're going to own firearms, all firearms need to be secured. And then if you're going to
what
lock
about the firearms behind you for the people listening? You've got 10, 12, 15 guns on the wall behind you. So are you in some kind of secure room or?
This is a studio. No, we do have a secure vault here,
Uh-huh.
and we bring the guns out and set up the studio for podcasts and for videos, and then we put the guns away.
Yeah. It's
So
a good look.
when
I
people
like
come to visit the office, we set up the office displaying a lot of firearms, a lot of the stuff that we can do.
Uh-huh.
But when this podcast is over, I'm going to walk out of here and we're going to come in and we're going to take it all down and everything gets buttoned up. So it's very secure here.
Yeah.
So we're big on that. But if I get frustrated, when you look at tragedies in America from unlocked firearms, it's not, it's usually a friend visiting. You see these ones, like I've got people I talk to, my wife and I don't have kids. We're in our 60s now, and it's just the two of us, and boom, you don't worry about it. I said, okay. So here's the kind of crazy stuff. If you look at some of the tragedies, next door neighbor's a family, guy's 34, wife's 30, 2 kids. He has a massive heart attack. Goes to the hospital, wife's in the ambulance. What are we going to do? We'll watch the kids, next door neighbors. They all get along great. So, okay, keep an eye on the kids. The guy's not doing well, probably not going to make it. The kids end up being in the neighbor's house for several days. He's got unsecured, couple of handguns, rifles in the home. He's not thinking about that because the whole world's kind of goofy right now with what's going on. You're setting up a scenario for another tragedy. And when you look at some of the things that happen when kids and people have the accidental shootings, the accidental discharges, anything along that chain of it, you break the chain, it doesn't happen. And it's always crazy things you never would think would happen. But if the guns had simply been locked, that would have broke the chain. When you look at the Newtown, was it Lanza? He walked into his mom's house, picked up her rifle, turned and fired twice and killed her. That quick. She probably never spoke. He was just, had her guns been locked, he would have walked in, and if nothing, there's no guarantee it would have prevented anything, but at least she had time. Possibly she could have assessed that he had blown a fuse, that something was wrong. And she could have reacted in a way that would have either got him off the street, got him help or something. She never had the chance because she had, I think it was 2 rifles. I think she was shot with a 22 twice in the chest. But again, nobody ever knows. She never had the opportunity.
This kid I played soccer with in like grade school, we had quit playing soccer together, and we didn't go to the same school. I didn't keep up with him, but I found out like 2 years after we quit playing, he was looking for Christmas presents and found his dad's handgun, and he shot and killed himself.
Yep.
And he was probably 11.
Yeah.
It's
you hear these stories all the time, and it's frustrating because there's a lot of solutions out there that will solve that. Everything we do is ultralight and lightweight gun safes. And our solution is extremely modular, properly stores, properly holds firearms, and it integrates gear. And that's something that like the traditional gun safes, they force you to do things one way. The little W's are cut. They only work one way, and you're forced to do it that way.
It's a mess. And this safe behind me, all the guns are bumping each other. It's
most of the damage. There's an article in Truth About Guns about wear and tear. The biggest cause of wear and tear to firearms are going in and out of traditional gun safes. Our solution is extremely modular, extremely flexible. The Marine Corps refers to it like Pendleton. They call it the Tetris rack. Third Group Special Forces at Fort Bragg, they call it the Lego rack because they start at the bottom and they just build. And when I look at our system, it's the same system we use for our consumer group. It's just smaller cabinets. When we get customer photos, no two racks are ever configured the same because you have 100% control of how you set up, how your guns are stored, where they're gored, how you put, gear, everything about your whole, everything you do with firearms associated can be stored with those firearms if you have a proper solution. Like, we're in hunting season now. It's just rifle season here just ended on Sunday. Now we're into muzzleloader.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll have a late muzzleloader after Christmas. But, at my house, I've got an agile quad system. It's 2 6-rifle cabinets, 2 6-rifle smaller cabinets on top, bolted together as a big quad. So I've got my hunting rifles on one side. I hunt primarily with lever action.
I see a couple of those behind, 3 of them behind.
Yeah, I really like just old school. Now I've got a couple of long range, a couple of places we've got a hunting ranch. If I'm setting up for long range, I've got a 6.5 Creedmoor that will go way out.
Oh, yeah.
But for the most part, I like to still hunt. I like to move around. So it's either a 30-30 or a 45-70 with a flat nose bullet, really short range, but it goes through brush like crazy. But my cabinets are set up. I've got rifles, and the cabinet above is configured with shelves and bins. So I've got calls, everything that I use for deer hunting is even clothing, that my orange, there's some like warm weather gear I don't put in there, but I've got all the stuff organized and stored. So every hunting season, I'm not, jumping around trying to get all my crap together. It's all organized, stored. And I mean, really like hyper organized in that if I'm going to still hunt, I've got a bin with all the stuff I'm going to take out. If I'm just going to open one of my big blinds, it's a different box of stuff I'll grab. But I always tell people if the wife's not into hunting, if your gear is organized, stored, and out of sight, you can always buy more. If it's a mess and all over the place, she'll give you a hard time every time you walk in the house is something new. She just views it as more crap that's going to fill up wherever it's going.
Being in this industry for as long as I have been, boxes show up about once a week from sponsors or a startup company on Instagram. And so I just don't have the space to store it a lot of times. And like, if you open the closet in my studio here, it would just be like, crap would just be falling out of there. Yeah. So I could definitely get more organized. There's no doubt about that. I think a lot of us struggle with that.
I'm kind of a gearhead. I like buying gear. I like nuts. I like, tricking out rifles, building an AR platform, and really kind of playing with stuff. And when you do that a lot, you end up with a lot of parts. And part of our system, the bin system, if I've got like an AR-15, I'm going to have bins behind it within the rack, and all the components I'm not using are stored right with that gun. If I've got a really odd caliber, I'll have the cleaning brushes and things stored in a bin with that rifle, because that's kind of when I need it.
Oh, yeah. So I went on a muzzleloader hunt in Nebraska a couple weeks ago, and it was one of those deals where, okay, where's my 50 cal cleaning brush and swab? How dirty those things get. And it's like a, 30-minute ordeal of trying to go through that closet where all the crap is and be like, where is that damn thing? Finally find it, But
no, I've got my muzzle loader I've got one. It's a cheap gun, but right behind it, I've got the lower bin is a long bin where I've got that, the brass lower. I don't know who makes it. It's a little brass measuring device. And I've got the little thing for pushing the round through I've got cleaning products. I've got the breech, screw in breech, my lube, the breech lube, all the stuff that I use in the muzzle loader. It's all organized with that rifle. So when it's muzzleloader season, I've got a little pack that I pack everything up in, go to the range, beat myself up to make sure the sights are good, and go out and have at
50
it.
50 cal will do that for sure.
I do it to myself every year. I've been trying to play with trying to find a BDC scope for the 50. The bullet drop, which Nikon had those for long range rifles. I think it was really kind of silly. I like the long range shoot, but for hunting, like a 300 blackout BDC has got those dots going down in the scope. When you go to like a muzzle loader, you have to go out to a range, and now I've got a card printed on the side of the rifle. I just taped it on there, and I've got those points on that scope dialed in. So I've got 100 yards. It's 210, 270. And I just dial it in. So if I've got a longer range shot, I can look at the stock, and I've got my dots of where it's going. Well,
mine is 8 inches of drop at 200 yards. And after that, I'm not taking the shot. I'm just like,
no, that's
too far
getting
for me.
I do that with 45-70 as well, because there's so much drop in it, but it still is carrying so much energy if you can get it right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to find the right scope for that, because I want to get out to about 200, 210. I mean, but at 200 yards, between 100 and 200, 100 and 200, you got a lot of drop. I want to find those in between points. So I keep changing the optic on it, and I always end up doing it in like
you are
October.
a gearhead. You like to fidget with stuff.
I do, but I always wait till it's getting cold out, and sighting in and playing with a muzzle loader when it's like 38 degrees out, it's horrible. And I always end up in that scenario, kind of like, well, I can't wait any longer. Your hands are cold, the gun's cold. It's just, I always tell them every year, it's like next year, July, 78 degrees. I'm going to sit out here, relax with a nice.
You're not going to do it.
No, probably not.
What's a nice whitetail buck in Western New York, like score wise?
I'm not, I don't know enough about that aspect of hunting to even tell you. I mean, we don't take anything, 6 point or bigger, and the 6 point's got to be huge. Okay. We're looking at 8s and 10s and bigger on my property. I'm not that experienced of a hunter. I don't travel. I'm hunting here locally, and it's kind of, we got what we got. So our deer do not get as big as the ones they get in like Ohio, Iowa. I've got a friend that hunts Iowa, and their deer are just bigger.
Oh yeah,
but they're a heck of a lot bigger than what
Ohio too, Illinois.
Yeah,
we have big rack deer in Texas, but it's weird. Yep. We have really 3 different body sizes. We have North Texas deer, which are big. Then we have hill country deer, which are tiny, and then South Texas deer, they get big again.
What's the other one? The species they brought in? Is it ibex, or what's the small deer that I see when I'm out there?
Well, we have axis deer, but those are
axis. That's the one that's not a native species though, is it?
No, that's from India. Yeah. Or they call them the chatal, but mostly they live in India, and tigers eat them. So we get they'll run whitetail off of a feeder. They're also, I think, smarter than whitetail. They're wary, very wary.
It's been a tough year here. We had a lot of nice bucks on camera, but my a friend of mine's wife took a 9-point, nice sized deer with a bow, and I got a big doe. And just because I'm sitting there waiting, finally it's getting late in the season, I said, well, I gotta put some meat in the freezer. Yeah. We dropped a big doe, but
do you bow hunt too?
I do. And this year was bad for me bow hunting. I never had a shot. I saw a couple of bucks that I would not have shot. They were too small, but I had never had anything walk by me close at all. I could hear them, and it was one of those years where, I mean, it sounds like they're ripping a house down. You hear the bucks chasing a doe, and you can hear all this stuff in the brush. And no, never, just didn't happen this year. And our whole area, I have 500 acres. I'm up against a big state preserve, and I've got some farmers next to me that have decent properties. Opening day, I heard 4 shots. That's it. I mean, there are years where you hear a shot every 20 minutes.
I was sitting in I lease a place in Oklahoma, a different place now, but one I had about 5 years ago. And I was sitting in the blind opening day of rifle season, and they only have a 2-week rifle season there. With Texas, we rifle hunt from the first weekend in November until mid-January. It's long.
Yeah.
But opening day in Oklahoma is a huge deal because it's a short season, and I lost count at like 25. I just stopped counting. All directions, everywhere. It was like, good Lord, I had never ever experienced that before in Texas.
Yeah, our rifle season is 14 days, 15 days maybe. It's 2 weekends plus a little extra maybe. Yeah. And then bow season is October 1st is when it opens. That's way too early to be. I know guys that go out, but it's crazy. Yeah. And then we got muzzleloader now, and there's a break at Christmas, and the week between Christmas and New Year's is late muzzleloader, and then it ends on December 31st. And I'll get out. It was so warm here. It just, I'm in a tree stand with a bow wearing shorts and a t-shirt. It just doesn't seem like hunting season up here. But we finally got some snow on the ground, and that makes it visually, it makes it a lot easier. Because my property is very heavily wooded. There's a lot of brush, and it's hard to see.
Yeah.
But once there's snow on the ground, it does make it a lot easier. So I'm hoping to get out one last opportunity at a slammer.
And we were talking off the air. So do you have a crossbow too?
Yep. I've got I just got a new, I bought a new, with the VX, the new Matthews regular bow this year. It's expensive. I said, I'm going to invest in a new bow. But I had a shoulder injury. I've not been able to draw a bow for 5 years. I rehabilitated my shoulder just working out hard and got so I could do it. Never got to shoot at anything.
Yeah.
And we have a crossbow season. It's late bow season. And I pulled the crossbow out I was out with a couple of days with it.
I've never shot a crossbow.
I view that as hunting with a really short range rifle. And I've got a friend of mine who hunts my property with me, and he was very against crossbow. And he's he travels a lot.
You know what you can tell him? Well, you just find somewhere else to hunt then, buddy.
Well, but he was against it until he had a significant injury on a property, and he can't draw a bow. I'm not sure he can. I think he can draw one now. But for a couple of years, he couldn't draw a bow. And he went to a crossbow, and after using it, he's like, I'm not too proud. He goes, from a humane standpoint, we make such better shots with a crossbow. He's like, I get it now. I understand the crossbow thing. I just think there's I don't know what if it's not ergonomic. There's something about the drawing of the whole process that's just, you're more connected with what you're doing. A crossbow is like a rifle, is another level of disconnection from what you're actually doing.
Right.
It's just what it seems like.
I could see that. Less
organic. I mean, is the word I'm not sure what organic, but there's
it's less primal for sure.
It is. That's the word primal is. It's just, you're going back way back with that bow. Now, again, modern compound bows are pretty amazing with what they can do,
right?
Compared to, heck, just compared to the bows of 20 years ago, it's it's just 100%. Unbelievable.
So the consumer market, obviously, a much bigger place for you guys.
It is.
How many different safes or storage units? Do you offer? Just the average.
Our rifle solutions, which is our core system, our cradle grid system, our patented system that we still are the global leader in military weapon storage. Retail's a bigger part of our business now, but we still do. We build armories all over the world. Same system. We have our fast box, which is a very small, holds one rifle horizontal with a rifle, maybe a handgun or two. It can go vertical and hold 2 rifles. It comes with hardware to mount to a bed frame or mount in a closet. Very fast access, very secure. Then we go to our Agile line, which is a 6 rifle. It's the ultralight gun safe, weighs 110 pounds, and you bolt it in place, and it offers no less security. You don't have the weight, all the drywall, all the nonsense of a gun safe. Then we jump up to our Answer line, which is a 8 gun and a 12 gun. The 12 gun looks more like a traditional safe. It's a double door safe. Everything we do, firearm storage wise, is one row of guns. We'll never put guns behind guns. There's no reason to ever do that. The military, you can't. It's part of my requirements. An armor opens up a rack with one arm. They remove a rifle. They close the rack and lock it with one hand. So they never lay stuff on the ground. They're never digging through stuff. Everything we do is one row of guns. We call it straight line access. A lot of advantages there. Your rifles are free and clear. Nothing's ever touching. Our system allows for optics up to a 5-inch thermal imaging, so you're never going to lose 0. Furthermore, if you've got a lot of guns packed into a safe, do you know if you're missing a 22?
There's been times I'm like, where's that handgun?
Exactly. So with our solution, we, visual inventory, you can open the doors up, glance at it. If something's missing, it's there.
My wife would be pissed if she heard me say that about a handgun. Like the unloaded rifles and shotguns that have spilled out now from the safe to the closet.
No, it's
lax on that, but a handgun, she'd be like, whoa, boy.
But our solution, when you buy a safe, you buy the safe, and there it is. People buy our solution. It's really fascinating, the comments and the emails that we get back from people, because they've got the solution, and what they're always writing is, I got safe, I got installed this. Then I went back 2 days later and redid it. Because then I had all my guns out. I'm sitting there. I said, He goes, I spent 4 hours just reconfiguring it, trying different things out to see what I really liked, because it's so flexible in what you can do in terms of integrating how you store your rifles and all the gear that you associate with them. From shelves to bins to trays to.
If I have, I don't know how many guns are in that safe, a lot. And there's probably double digits in the closet now that don't fit in there. Mm-hmm. So what is the biggest?
12. We have a 12 gun safe.
Okay, 12.
But let's talk about the big dinosaur safe.
The one behind me, yeah.
A lot of people do that. That
was a pain in the ass.
If you go to a safe distributor dealer, or you talk to people, quite often you'll hear them say, "Buy the biggest safe you can afford, because you're going to end up with more guns. You're going to grow into it." The problem is the gun safe does not store guns in a manner, or it doesn't align with why we own guns. There's a real disconnect there. Our solution is don't buy the biggest safe, buy what you need. If you get more guns, buy another one. And if you're going to lock up guns in your home, well, lock them up where they make sense. Again, our Agile cabinets are small and lightweight. Our Answers are a little bigger, but they're still shallow. They're not deep. They all fit in closets. They all fit in discrete locations. So we use what we call decentralized storage, which is something we actually went through with the military post 9/11, when we actually broke up armories. And this was not going into too much detail on it, but there are armories that were more diplomatic security groups. These are armories that were public facing a little bit, massive armories, and they realized they can't get operators to a central point. So they broke up these armories. And these are like government cities into smaller armories located all over cities, all over areas, because that way you can always get to something. Well, in your home, if you're looking from a security standpoint, I can open up your safe I can remove guns from your safe in about 22 seconds. I'll not touch the door. I don't care about the door. Now, the manufacturer's safe is going to give you a brochure about the safe and say, we got 3 different security levels: level 1, level 2, level 3. You got bolts, you got corner bolts, you got welded plates up to plate steel on the door. And those are your 3 security levels. I'm simply going to pick up a little circular saw blade at Home Depot. They sell to the concrete industry. It's used for cutting rebar, up to 1/2 inch thick rebar, actually 1 inch thick rebar. Mount that up in my 1987 skill saw that I bought at Home Depot the year I got married. I'm going to cut a hole in the side of your safe as fast or faster than I can cut 3/4 inch plywood. People are shocked how fast. It's 11 gauge. It's somewhere between 9. Most safes are 11 to 12 gauge. Some are 14. That's higher numbers, thinner. Like your Liberty safes, most of those are 11 gauge. Mm-hmm. I cut through it as fast as I can cut through plywood. And that's how safes are open. They're not pried open, they're cut open. So when you look at securing firearms in a home, well, we look at FBI crime data. A thief breaks into your home. What's he doing? Where is he going? How long is he going to be in there? What are the data? Well, odds are the break-in is going to happen between noon and 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Most break-ins occur during the daytime. Thieves are in and out of your home in less than 9 minutes. They're hitting master bathroom, master bedroom, home office den, dining room. They're gone. They're moving very quickly. The time in the home is time at risk. They want prescription drugs, number 1 item. Then they're going to quickly scan for valuables in the master bedroom. They're going to hit home office den for anything electronic they can grab, and then dining room maybe for silver or something. Again, they want to get out of there quickly. So you look at home firearm. Now, if they know there's a safe in the home, it's more organized, they're going to go after the safe. They'll find it. Big safes, there's a lot of stupidity in marketing on safes we can talk about. But when we look at decentralized storage, okay, so secure guns where it makes sense. Master bedroom's the worst place from a security standpoint, but it's where we sleep. So I do 1 firearm per person if they're both trained, husband and wife. If it's just one person trained, 1 firearm. I have an AR-15 in a fast box under my bed. It's racked, ready to roll. I'm 2-second. I'm so good at it because I practice. So I go to bed about once a week now. I used to do it every night. I turn the lights off. I reach down in the dark. I practice my combination, open it, and just close it. So I know that if the crap hits the fan and it goes crazy, if somebody's shooting in your house, it's crazy. I'm still going to, because of muscle memory, I'll be armed behind my bed at that door in about 4 seconds. It's going to be really fast. Next, I look at kitchen. Thieves ignore kitchens. Fast access, a small handgun, fast access safe in a drawer on the side of a cabinet. I've got a decent firearms collection. I'm not a handgun shooter. I'm not big on handguns. So I've got a Agile 6-gun cabinet in my pantry. Part of my collection's in there, just being stored. I've also got an AR-15 racked ready to roll. Front closet next to my front door, I've got a cabinet with a pump shotgun with rounds in the tube and an AR-15. I've got a choice there. Both are good defense guns ready. I've also, again, got part of my collection in that room. And then and there's a whole process on our website about decentralized storage. But again, my gun collection, instead of being in one big safe, is located in safes throughout my home. Couple things happen. I'm never more than 2 to 3 seconds away from a firearm. And if you came to my house to visit, you'd never know I own a firearm. Whereas a big gun safe sits in the corner of a room, it sits in the basement. Now, I've seen brochures from Liberty, from Fort Knox, from a lot of these companies. It drives me nuts because, again, I'm not a gun safe guy. I'm a military defense guy. But they've got the picture of, it's the room with the ultimate man room, pool table, river rock fireplace, the view of the Rockies out the windows like Aspen. And in the corner is this beautiful maroon gun safe with this Wild West lettering on it. And the brochure is talking about heritage, heirloom, showpiece. Is what they're talking about. Think about those words they're using. I'm like, are you out of your mind? The most valuable stuff that you own is probably in this safe and all your guns.
Yeah.
And you're going to put it in the middle of a room to show it off? I mean, if you really think about the actual mechanics of this, it's nuts. The best security.
It might look like I'm showing that one off, but that one's just there out of necessity. Like,
yeah,
where's it gonna
it's
go?
because it's so big.
In my office.
It's the only place it fits because it's so big. But
it's also cool. I would say one thing for it though is
oh, there you go. All right.
You can put a black bear on it.
You can put a but it's
the full body mounted black bear. Yeah.
Of the biggest thing you can do for security is secrecy. And anybody, I mean, truly, the number one thing you can do to prevent home invasion, to prevent break-ins, has nothing to do with firearms. It's simply motion sensor lights in the front of your house, cut the bushes, plant. If you got a lot of overgrowth in the front of your house, cut it back and light it. Thieves are like bullies in elementary school. They're not looking for a fight. They're looking for the weakest kid. They're looking for the easiest target. And if they walk up to your house and lights come on, they're going to go to your neighbor. They're going to go somewhere else. So I always tell people, it's like, yeah, we all buy firearms for home defense. The last thing I want to do is have somebody in my house that I feel I've got to shoot at.
Right.
So harden your home first. And just simple motion sensor lights, they're cheap, will stop the vast majority of break-ins.
So what is the MSRP on your 12 gun?
Our cabinets start at.
So you don't even call it a safe; you call it a cabinet.
No, they're safes. They are safe cabinets. It's $699 on up to about $29.99. 3,000. And then we have the
combination process is to unlock is what?
Push button. They're all push button locks of various integrated levels. Our answer safes, our biggest safes, use Securum standard safe lock, but it's a very simplified Securum with a very simple combination code, so you can do it very quickly. And right now, we're going to be making some changes in our locking going forward this year into a more integrated solution across all of our platforms. The company was growing so fast, we said, okay, let's get this done. And we ended up with different locks. Yeah. But I use mostly the Agile cabinets. We call that the ultralight gun safe. The answer is called the answer because it's the answer to the question. I really like big safes, but I'm not ready for an ultralight. So this is the answer. And then we do make the true safe. The true safe, by its name, is a true safe. And what I say by true safe is it's made in the original patented design of Silas Herring, who patented the first fireproof secure safe in 1865. Now, the Herring Safe Company was one of the biggest safe companies in the country, and true fire-rated safes are still made like that. Gun safe industry really came out in the 70s and started growing, only to make a gun safe in that design, and the design is, it's a small steel box with the guns are in it, a larger steel box filled with concrete in between. Like our true safe is 3 inches of concrete on the sides, 4 inches on the door, sandwiched in between steel. And it's a beast. Now, the gun safe industry, to make safes like that, they're so heavy, it was not practical. So they got rid of the outer steel, they got rid of the concrete, and basically what they make is a steel box. Then they line it with drywall and carpeting. And that's now the modern gun safe. They did that in the 70s, and the insurance industry came forward and said, well, what are you making? What is this? You know, we're insuring homes, we're insuring firearms collections. What is this? So Underwriters Laboratory, UL, was created in the late 1800s by the insurance industry to rate electrical components. When America went electric, there was a real risk of fire, and fire insurance companies created UL to make sure that all electrical components going into homes met a certain standard of safety. Mm-hmm. They added safes to that in the 1920s. So UL rates safes on levels of security. There's class A, B, C. There's a whole class rating from small safes and jewelry stores on up to bank vaults. So the gun safe industry was making these boxes, these safes, and UL was brought in to give them a rating and understand what they were. So they came up with a rating, and your safe has this rating. In fact, every gun safe sold in America, for the most part, is UL class RSC. RSC stands for Residential Security Container.
Okay.
The word safe is missing. UL would not allow the use of the word safe because they didn't feel these met the minimum standard to be called a safe. And the test to be a class RSC is you have to block access for 5 minutes from somebody with a pry bar of less than 18 inches, a hammer of less than 5 pounds, and a small hand drill. That's 1950s threat level. You come at these things with a modern circular saw, you open them up like butter. And that's why the best security is secrecy. My safes are, again, I'm not saying you can cut my safe open too, but odds are you're not going to find mine. And you're really preventing targets of opportunity, smash and grab, the quick move stuff. A thief, if you're gone for the weekend, let's say, and a thief knows you guys are gone and on vacation for a week, they're going to spend some time in your home. They see you're safe. They're going to get it open. They're going to clean it out. If you decentralize with a lot of smaller cabinets, eventually they may find one and they'll get it open. Interesting statistic with thieves, when they find something of value, they leave. Because now, once they find something, one thing of value, wow, there's something here, they get out because now the clock is ticking. They're going at greater, they've won. Right. So once they find something of value, they don't stay in the house, they leave. So when you decentralize, worst case scenario, you might lose 4 or 5 guns, but you won't lose your whole collection. Mm-hmm. Again, the odds of break-ins are so rare. And we don't have a fire rating. Nothing we do with a fire rating. The biggest thing with your safe does not have, it has a sticker on it. Mm-hmm. And I know the safe, I know that brand that you have, and I can pretty much guarantee there's no testing. It's just a sticker on the door. Mm-hmm. And I met with a manufacturer because we were going to OEM a safe. We were going to have a safe made. When I first went into retail, we didn't know anything about safes. So I met with a manufacturer to make us a safe. And I look at these safes, they're all 60-minute rating. And I said, well, if I'm going to go into business, I want to do something different. I said, could you do a 90-minute rating? He goes, absolutely. I said, what would you do different? He goes, we just change the sticker on the door. That's what he said. I'm not kidding. We just changed the sticker on the door. I said, isn't there any testing? He goes, no, we just put whatever sticker the company wants. This is a company that made safes for a lot of different brands. Wow. Whatever they want, we put on it. And now you've got the big manufacturers, they test their safes. And we tested our true safe. The test is it goes into an oven. They put temp probes in the safe. They run the oven up to 1,300 degrees, and then they wait. And as the temperature inside the safe comes up, once it busts 350 degrees, that the test is over. So if your safe goes like 70 minutes, it's a 1-hour rated safe. If it goes, 50 minutes, they give it a 45-minute rating. That's how it works. Our true safe went into an oven, and it was sitting outside on a trailer. The safe was 94 degrees when we went into the oven. So we're already 20 degrees above where we should be. We went 2 hours and 20 minutes, that's great. I would give that safe a 45-minute rating. And the reason is it's a static test. The air's not moving. So a great way to look at it, if you've got a pizza in the oven, oven doing a pizza is 450 degrees.
Right.
You could put your hand in that oven and hold it there I'm going to bet you could go a minute. You might go longer. It's slowly going to heat up to the point where you got to get it out because it's going to burn. But it takes a while. Now, take a small jet engine with exhaust at 450 degrees coming out of that engine at 60 miles an hour. Put your hand in that stream. It's going to burn the skin off your bones in seconds, half a second. You have third-degree burns in a nanosecond because of the convective nature of heat, how that works. A fire in your home, a raging fire, air is moving in excess of 60 miles an hour. It rips safes apart. They don't have a chance. So the whole fire, we posted a video, we shot it about a month ago, and we took a 75-minute US-made safe. And we built a burn room, but it was too small. We may do it again. We never got a good convective fire, but the safe went 21 minutes. And then we put the fire out. It was 400 degrees at 21 minutes. With the fire out, the safe continued to go up. And at 37 minutes, it was over 600 degrees inside the safe because the metal is so hot and the heat keeps transferring.
So are there any positive stories of people like, oh, my safe saved my gun collection? Like,
well,
you never hear about this kind of stuff.
Talk to any firefighter. Do guns save? Do guns survive fires? But there's a more important thing to consider. You've been convinced, we all have that, oh, you want a good fire rating. Why? You don't. Because here's the other side of it. That safe that we cooked went over, it was like 680 degrees where it maxed out. So now you want, let's suppose you have, and now if you had wood guns in there, they're burned up. But what if you have chassis guns? What if you've got AR platform? What if you got nothing with wood on it? You don't know how hot your safe got. Everything in your gun that's hardened steel, above 380 degrees, the hardening, you start losing hardening. Now, annealing, it's another hardening process. Barrels are annealed. Annealing breaks down at mid 600. Anything above 650, 670, and that, anything above that, your annealing process starts to decay. So again, are you going to fire, let's say, a 300 Win Mag bolt gun that was in a fire and you don't know how hot it got?
I'm not going to say this on the air, but I'm going to sell all those guns.
Well, your insurance, if you've got insurance on your firearms, they're going to buy them all, regardless of how they look. They do not want you to fire them. They don't want the liability. But the idea is, if your guns are in a fire, they're toast. They're walled, and they should not be fired. Same thing with ammo. Putting ammo, like I've seen companies make fire-rated ammo safes. I'm like, guys, if ammo's in a fire, you get rid of it. But we're being sold. There's this bill of goods being sold about this concept of fire ratings. And it's like two things: A, just buy insurance, but the other side is the risk of fire in America is shockingly low, and every decade it's going down, lower and lower and lower. I spent a lot of time looking at insurance data on fires. I think it's 87% of all fires are in the kitchen, and the fire's contained within a pot, or it's within the oven. Almost all claims are smoke related. Open flame damage in a home is extremely rare. And when it does occur, it's usually confined to one room or corner of a room. And the cause is typically human error. It's either smoking, candles, something that they're doing incorrectly.
So I guess I'm in the majority of consumers. So I didn't get this safe for a fire, right? I just got it for a place to put my guns up when I have kids. And, I was like, well, at least they're not organized, because like I said, they're all bumping each other, but at least they're in one place in some form of organized chaos. But everyone's that gets one of these safes is like, oh, plus now you're protected from a fire. And we all just buy that. Like, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's like a nice plus, I guess. And you just take it at face value, like, oh, cool. If my house was to burn down, at least my guns are going to be okay. What a load of crap.
It is. Well, the other side that kind of,
knock on wood, I hope nobody's home burns.
Well, it just, the part that kind of ticks me off that a lot of people don't know is, now, do you use a goldenrod or any kind of desiccant or any kind of anti-corrosion things in your safe? Okay, because the industry sells millions of dollars a year, and you know the products I'm talking about. To stop rust in safes. Well, why? If a gun is properly cleaned and oiled, it's not going to corrode. And so my grandfather had shotguns and rifles in a glass cabinet for 50 years. They didn't rust. He lived outside of Buffalo. It's very humid in the summer. But the gun industry is selling all this stuff. Why? Well, did a little research on that as well. And now in the military, I'm required, there's materials I can and cannot use. We also build a lot of museums, like high-end, some large museums have big firearms, relic firearms collections,
Right.
and we build the back end. And it's very strict what we can and cannot use. So let's look at a gun safe. You got carpeting, not a big deal. Carpeting is held in place with a rubberized adhesive. And that adhesive stays like rubbery for the life of the safe so it doesn't dry and crack and the carpet falls. Well, to keep it from mildewing, it's impregnated with formaldehyde. Highly corrosive, banned from use in armories, banned from use in museums. Next, you look at the drywall they put in for this fire rating, which I don't think is for fire rating. I think they put the drywall in for weight to offset the weight of the door so the safe doesn't tip over, because they make the doors really heavy because they want you to think it's secure. All that drywall contains sulfur. It's part of gypsum when they mine it. Sulfur breaks down over time and emits sulfuric and sulfurous acids. You've also got pyrite, which is fool's gold. That's in gypsum as well. Pyrite breaks down. In fact, it's a real problem with, they called it acid, the waste off of mines when they're piling up dirt and it rains, the pyrite produces an acid runoff that's environmentally can be very damaging. In your gun safe, it's also breaking down, forming, again, sulfuric acid. And then you've got ferrooxidant bacteria that live on the pyrite. It's a bacteria that eats metals, used in the mining industry to strip metal from low-grade ores. It's just in drywall. It just exists there. But all that material, your guns are in there.
Yeah.
It's all corrosive. Now, if you're looking at a brand new safe in a store, and it's been closed for a week or two, open the door, put your nose and smell, you'll smell sulfur. It's sulfuric acid. It's a vapor. Any safe that's been closed for a long time, you'll notice a slight sulfur smell. So I tell people, if you've got a traditional gun safe with all the stuff in it, open it and vent it once a week.
Mine's open right now.
Yeah, I can see it. But it's people don't realize
we're talking about securing our guns. I've got an open gun safe in the background.
Again, if you're in the room, there's nothing wrong. I
went to the gun range yesterday, and I took the gun out of the thing this morning, out of the rifle case, and was cleaning it. So that's why it's open. But now I know I should open it anyway.
Yeah, it's a lot of people don't realize that and what really frustrates me, and I've met with a lot of the safe manufacturers in America early on, because my first thought was we should license our technology to them. And I asked a lot of these questions. I didn't get good answers, but it's frustrating because they could use other materials for nominally more money. Now, another piece that, when you look at firearm storage, like our solution, you got to go to the range. So you take your gun out, now you put it in a case. And now you got to store your case, all these different things. Our solution, like I've got some nice like trap guns. I go, sporting clays. I've got those in nice cases, and they go right in. Our system holds those. So I've got, I've got my hunting rifles that are open, but I've got my shotguns in the plastic, or in one case leather. I just grab the handle and go. So it stores the gun in the case.
Fascinating. And practical.
It is. Again, we look at,
there's guns in there that I'm like, oh, I should shoot that gun sometime. But you've been banished to the back of the safe. I totally forgot about you.
I know, it's funny. We've got guns here that haven't been fired. I was talking to, we were moving some stuff around and say, I haven't shot this gun in 7 years. It's
definitely some of those in there.
Yeah, but when you bought that firearm, you couldn't wait to get to the range and shoot it. It's like, oh, this is my new cool gun. And now it's
just like a kid with their Christmas toy.
Oh yeah.
It's cool until the next thing, until you get the next one. That's
what makes secure. It's a great Christmas gift, because guys, we all go back to, like, as kids, the erector set gifts, the gifts that allowed you to Christmas Day, you're building something. With our solution, they sit there and play with adult Legos, it's
right. I like it.
It's not a bad way to go, but you know what? It's what we're doing is working. We've spent very little on advertising. The company's growing like crazy. We made Inc. Magazine's fastest growing companies in America, 2018 and 2021. And we're just now this year. I've got Chris, my head of marketing, and we're building a marketing organization. And
nice.
We're really start scaling things up a little bit. And
well, and I'll be honest, until and maybe it is because you don't market, but until Baker told me about you guys. I had not heard of Secure Tactical.
Yeah, I mean, not intentionally, but we kind of fly under the radar screen in a lot of areas. And there's certain groups and certain, like all the military guys that get out, most of those guys know us because they used us when they were in the military. If they were in armories, if they were active, team guys, stuff like that, they all know us. But and there's a lot of the tactical magazines that have written a lot of articles about us because of the military tie. But the broad, the big blue ocean of people, we always say, how do you get to the people you can't get to? Most people don't know who we are. We're still.
What do you think about our incompetent, fearless leader and his claim that he's going to ban ARs? And what would that do to the marketplace as far as you guys? Because I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people are putting black rifles in these safes.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, that doesn't affect us, I don't think, because people are still going to buy firearms and we secure all of them. I mean, I think he's blowing a lot of smoke just because that's what he wants to do. They don't have the votes. They don't have.
No, they just lost the House. There's no way they're going to do it.
No, and they don't. There's a lot of Democrats that can't take that vote either. What I find, I mean, the dynamics that I look at, nobody talks about it, but are the Democrats going off a cliff? And you've got Pelosi, Schumer, and that whole group. They're all late 70s into their mid 80s. Mm-hmm. They're aging out. They're gonna be dead in 10 years. I mean, it's just they're old.
Well, Biden might be dead in a year. Like
you're right, but what they haven't done though is all leaders. It's as a leader, you are part of being a leader is training your replacements. In the military, you're always training up the guys. You're working up the ranks because you know you're going to be gone.
Yeah.
This group of people, these baby boomers, will not let go of power. I've never seen anything like it. And they're not allowing any oxygen to any true, well-spoken, articulate people under them. You go from Pelosi, Schumer, you had Reid, all these old people. Who's next? You got the squad. They're the next one to have the microphone.
Yeah.
But the Democrat Party's going off a leadership cliff.
But here's the problem with them is they have they've let the extreme side of their party hijack the rest of it. And the Republicans, McConnell could go too, and that would make me really happy. Like he's a dinosaur. But we have, I think, decent, young, promising politicians.
I agree.
They do not. And if they do, if those people speak out and be like, hey, you know what? Actually, we don't think it's a good idea to give a 10-year-old kid gender, hormones, blocking hormones. Yeah. If you speak out and say that, they cancel you. So they've let the party be. I mean, and it's the same thing like what we saw. All this stuff coming out on Twitter. Like we all knew that they used social media to win an election in 2020. Now it's all common knowledge. And like you and I were probably like, well, yeah, we told you that then. No. Like I was living it. My Instagram went from 144,000 followers in November of 2020. They turned the faucet off. They're like, no more for you. And it's been the same. It hasn't grown in 2 years when it was growing exponentially. Like, and I didn't change anything.
Yeah, we're shut down. We've always been shut down on most of our advertising. I'm hoping with Musk and Twitter that that's kind of a floodgate scenario, something where it's like, because again, these companies want to make money, but I'm hoping that Twitter does well and things go really well where the world's like, you know what, we this is crazy. We gotta allow. I mean, there's a point where the Republicans can get a hold of the Senate, maybe even the presidency in 2 years, that they could put some legislation in that basically allows for free speech.
Isn't that crazy that we have to have that conversation? I never would have thought. You're older than me, and we've never in your life have you seen this, and I never thought.
No, but it's the media's been crazy liberal for quite a while. And it's always been I've got liberal friends, liberal family members.
Oh, me too.
And it's just like, it's easy for you because that's all it's all you hear. That's everybody's support, your whole media organization is supporting your view. But I don't listen to news. I don't watch Fox. I don't watch any of these things anymore, but people watch news not to get news. They watch it to validate what they already believe. Liberals watch liberal news because they just want to validate. Yeah, Trump's an asshole. Yeah, it's like a rally cry. It's really kind of crazy. I tell everybody, don't watch, read news. There's some, was it 1440? That's not bad.
Yeah.
But I can't stand any of them anymore.
It's all propaganda on both sides of the fence.
Unfortunately, it is. It used to be Fox News at 6 for the first 12 minutes or 8 minutes. Shepard Smith would go through and read the news. And then he says, all right, we're going to cut the commercial. We'll be right back with our panel. Why do you need a panel?
Right.
The panel is a bunch of people to tell us what we're supposed to think. And right, he's turned it off. It's just crazy. It's interesting that whole apparatus though is about to die because I've got kids. My kids are now all late teens. They're all college or old or mid 20s. None of them watch the news. No, I mean that's just not how they get information.
Well, they consume their information and what they believe to be true on social media.
Absolutely. So if you look at the demographics of these news organizations, we actually looked at advertising. If we're going to advertise, Fox News hits a conservative group. Then you look at the demographic. Their average viewer is 73. Right. It's all senior citizens.
Yeah.
So next 10 years, they're going to be all those networks will be gone.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well, somebody still has to put like decent programming on, like NFL football. So
that will exist. Yeah. But the news, the 24-hour news type thing, I don't see that. That does not have a future. We don't have
agree. Yeah, because you're going to get it on social media.
Absolutely.
But also, is that a good thing? Because you can say whatever one side can say whatever they want, the other side can't.
There's no. The problem with social media is there's no what I would call immediate accountability. Meaning, if you're out at a nightclub or you're with friends or you're at a park or somebody, and somebody walks up and gets you, makes a statement in your face, they got to deal with the repercussions of what they're saying to somebody in person. Online, they can type anything they want. It's like it's like people driving by yelling at somebody walking down the street. There's no risk. You say whatever you want, but there's also no strength in what they're saying. It's just
I've always said about social media, it's a double-edged sword, and it's I make part of my living like utilizing that as a tool for my business. But if I could get rid of it tomorrow, would I push that button? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably would, because I think life was better. I think society, like I don't want my kids on TikTok. You won't see how fast society is degraded. Get on TikTok for 5 minutes and look at what is acceptable to put out in a public forum.
No, it's
like people. It's mind blowing as a parent, and I didn't really care until I was a parent, and now I look at the world completely different.
You're right. What I find fascinating right now is my kids are in their early 20s. Is my kids struggle to sit through a movie. Like we're going to watch a movie because everything they digest is 1 to 2 minute little clips, and they'll do clips of movies. Like they know a lot of movies, not because they've seen the movie, because they've seen the movie cut up in the 1 minute clips on TikTok, on those social media, whatever platform it is. But I find attention spans on younger people, it's tough. It's I'm not sure how communication is going to work. The C-suite in some of these big corporations in 30 years is going to be a series of 10-second conversations. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, because I see a real challenge with people in their attention span.
Yeah.
And
it's only going to get worse too. So
it does, but I do think I always think that there's, everything flows. And like right now we're in this crazy world of all the crazy, goofy stuff, but we'll move out of it. I go back, I grew up in the 60s, early 70s, and we had the Vietnam War. We had riots. There was so much violence. We had the shooting at Kent State. You had the Democrat National Convention riots, and you had people being assassinated. Every leader, people were being assassinated. And the true risk of nuclear war. As crazy as that seemed, then we came into the 70s of crazy inflation and bad politics, got into the 80s of much better politics, and then we just roared through the 90s. So we're in a crazy time right now, but I do think that things cycle, and I think there's going to be kind of an awakening in America. The leadership of the Dems is going off a cliff. I see more and more moderate Democrats who just cannot identify what their party is about. I'm not saying they're Republicans or they're going to go, but they're looking at candidates differently. So I think it's
you're saying there's hope. Yeah.
I think there is. In my lifetime, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see a conservative government. I'd like to see taxes lowered dramatically, or I'd like to see the tax policy completely changed away from income tax. Because income tax is a tax on growth. It's a tax on middle income people created by very, very wealthy individuals back at the end of the Industrial Revolution. It's the wrong way to tax people.
Is there anything more ironic than a party saying we want to essentially, ban ARs, and if they could disarm us, they would, right? That's Absolutely. What they want to do. And then in the same breath, they're like, hey, Ukrainian citizens, here's ARs for all of you. Like, is the irony lost on anyone else? How ridiculous. Oh, wait, maybe if the Ukrainian citizens already had the ARs, we wouldn't have to be giving them to them, and they could defend themselves.
Well, it's one of the biggest miscalculations that I saw in the Democrat Party, the whole defund police. And I used to spend a lot of time in Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. I did an advertising agency we worked with. I've done a lot of rep groups up. There's a lot of corporate headquarters of when we were in retail stores. I was there all the time, and it's an incredible city. And then decentralized police, they got the riots going on. The mayor's saying we're going to defund police. And you had a lot of, it's a very liberal city. You had a whole lot of very liberal Democrats in their very high-end condos in downtown looking at riots in the streets. And the police are nowhere to be found. The police pulled out.
Right.
And they look to their politicians. Oh, we're going to defund police and use, we'll use welfare workers and this. And the people for the first time in their life realized the only thing that kept a crowd from coming up the stairs and killing them was luck. And that group of people at the end of that, for the first time in their lives, realized if I'm going to be secure, I can't look to the government. I've got to look to myself. And I know so many people that were anti-gun liberal Democrats that bought their first firearms after those series of events, and several of which people we've worked with, within, contractors and stuff said, look, I'm a really liberal guy and stuff, but they buy a handgun. They start going to the range and training. They find they really like it. Next thing you know, they've got a rifle. They've got an AR-15. And I'm not saying they're converting over. We love the Second Amendment. They just fell in love with the idea, the discipline of shooting and the clarity of thought when you're really focused on, that single point focus of doing it. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, we had more first-time gun buyers in 2020 than at any point in American history.
And the first-time gun buyers were predominantly Democrat.
Right. Because
ammo.com.
You defunded the police. You made our cities less safe. And now we
it was a huge miscalculation, because now you've got a lot of districts that are Democrat districts. The politicians, the people they don't want the guns taken away.
Right.
Because they know the government cannot protect you. And they should. That's not the idea, but there's a lot of things working. The demographics of America are changing. We're going to end up with 6 or 7 highly populated states and a lot of very rural states over the next 100 years.
Yeah.
When you look at that in politics, the Senate goes Republican eventually. It may never go back Democrat, because as you're going to have this handful of states highly populated, they'll probably be Democrat, but all the more rural states will all be Republican, and they'll never be able to flip them unless they adopt more moderate stances. Yeah. So it's I think it's looking good as long as, what frustrates me is we got so many Republicans in office that have no balls. They're just
rhinos.
Yeah. They're so afraid to shake it up. I don't know. It seems crazy.
Yeah. There's one of them from our Senator Cornyn, not a fan anymore.
Oh, really? I don't follow Texas politics other than, what's the deal with Beto O'Rourke? Is he now?
Oh, well, the good news is I got to walk down the street and help some of my neighbors that moved here from California pull up their Beto signs for the third time.
Yeah.
So he ran for Senate against Cruz, lost. He ran for president, didn't even get out of the primaries. And it turns out if you're on record as saying, hell yes, I'm going to take their AR-15s, not a good thing to do in Texas. And so when he ran for governor, he got his ass kicked. It wasn't even close. He lost by like, I think 8 points or something.
Yeah.
It was a landslide.
Is he running at this point because he actually wants to run, or is he a mask? He's raised a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And when you raise a lot of money, you can live a life. Now, technically, campaign money can't be used for personal stuff, but campaign stuff can be like dinners with people, important people, trips to areas because you're doing investigate. I mean, is he just living large off of this war chest, and that's what his game plan is?
I think it's over. I think the gravy train has ended for him at this point. But whether he becomes a political commentator or what, I don't know what the future holds. For I
don't see him gaining.
But we are blessed beyond. We're very fortunate to have rid ourselves of him for the third time, because the dude, he walks around with a shirt saying "Don't mess with trans kids." Like, how about don't make trans kids? Yeah. And I'll say this, and we're talking about some really controversial stuff right now, but in this country, I believe at the age of 18, you can do whatever you want to do. I agree. If you want to do that as an adult, you have one life to live. Yep. By all means, pursue whatever level, whatever your idea of happiness is, pursue that. If my kids came to me at 18 and said, "Dad, this is the thing," I'm gonna be like, "Well, you're my kid, and I'm gonna love you regardless." I think that flies in the face of science, but let's talk about it. And if that's your decision, fine. What we do not do is give puberty blockers, gender. I'm going to say mutilating surgeries to children that can't vote, can't buy cigarettes, can't buy beer, can't drive a car, not even 16 years old. That's what we do not do. And I think that's another thing. Like, we're talking about an awakening in America. Like, parents are not okay with states basically saying the kids belong to us. No, we're the kids' parents. We pay the taxes. We will decide, not you. That's I think that's the awakening that, and we saw Youngkin win in Virginia, the governor. He ran on that platform. Yep. So
I think you're right. I think I look at that as it is pure. It's beyond child abuse. Yeah. But some of the statistics that are troubling, though, is the rate of suicide for young people is growing very quickly in America. And by confusing men, women, boy, girl, that's always been a hard backstop. Mm-hmm. I mean, transitioning from a child to an adult's not easy for anybody. I think women if you listen to Jordan Peterson, which I really like, women may have a tougher time hormonally than men, but having that, this is a man, this is a woman, as a hard backstop gives you a point of reference. When you cloud that, there's no anchor points. And the kids they have no idea what's going on. And a lot of this is driven by the ultra liberal education system, which I think is about to collapse. We got a little college in our town. It just closed. I think you're looking at a tsunami of colleges closing and a major shift in education. We are now at a point where graduating senior classes are now getting smaller. There has to be a move towards trades and skills. It's going to be, because it is so lucrative to go into a trade right now, as opposed to going to college. Now, I didn't go to college. I didn't go to college, but everybody that works for me did. It wasn't in the cards for me. It's not how I learn. I don't do well in a classroom situation, but I'm looking at kids. They're getting these 4-year degrees. They're graduating with $80,000 in debt, with a degree in business, whatever it is. But
women's studies.
A job, and you get now they get an entry-level job at $36,000 a year. Great.
That's what my first job out of college paid. My first job in radio was $36,000. Then the economy tanked, and I got a decrease in salary, took a pay cut, and it went to $22,000 just to keep my job, working 80 hours a week at a radio station. Yeah. And I had the debt.
Now take a couple kids who go into, it's electrical. Now, Syracuse has a program where it's a 2-year internship, and you start at $115,000 a year. Think about that. Think about the different swing economically. Kids going into HVAC, and a lot of kids don't realize, when you're in these trades, like, you get a job, you get your associate's degree in business, whatever. You get a job, you walk into a cubicle, you sit at a desk, and you analyze data all day. Or every morning you get up, you're going to a location, you're solving problems, you're building, like if you're HVAC, you're solving heating, air conditioning. It's like playing with Tinker Toys all day. You're getting paid to do it. And every day is a different challenge. You're challenging your brain. You do that for 4 or 5 years, learn the skills, and then go off, create your own business. You can be making an unbelievable living and be in complete charge of your future.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't require college. It just doesn't. But I think YouTube education is coming on, is going to be coming on strong. The whole tuition bubble was driven by, let's make money free or cheap. There's no reason that college costs what it costs.
Right.
It's gone up 800% more than inflation? Is that something I'm not,
it's
that
absurd.
Might not, yeah. But it's when the government said, let's make education affordable. Okay. Everybody gets a loan who wants one. So much money came into the market. The colleges simply raised their rates because they could.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's right now. You've got classes are getting smaller. We got several small private schools around us that may very well be gone in the next 3 years.
Right.
And I think that's going to continue. And you're going to start seeing colleges all of a sudden start marketing on the idea of value. All of a sudden you say, "Hey, we're only $6,000 a year. Why don't you come here?"
That if I see that ad, we'll I don't know. I might lose my mind.
They're going to have to do something because there's no
college
value
advertising
proposition.
on a value. That would be insane.
There is no value proposition.
All they do is gouge. My youngest brother, who is pretty far on the left side of the spectrum, he was a junior in college and he dropped out and started bartending. It was just going to take a year off, whatever, find his way in life. Started making $80,000 a year bartending. It was like, why would I go back to? He never went back to college. He's like, why would I go back to college? Because I'll be making, like you said, $36,000 a year, and I'm making 80 grand here, and I'm working 3 days a week bartending.
Yep.
Yeah, and he developed relationships there because every day is something different. You're interacting with people. Yep. And when he finally was like, all right, I don't want to bartend anymore. I don't want to get home at 1 a.m. He met someone through Mary Kay and now is in like a management position at Mary Kay, without any college education. Well, without a degree. It's
people they underestimate or don't appreciate the dynamic nature of those types of jobs. When you work for a company in a cubicle, you're doing you get your 4-year degree and there's so many jobs you're doing the same thing every day. Mm-hmm. It's like, I find that you want a job where you're interacting with different people all the time. You're always exposed to new things. That's where the magic happens. That's where you see opportunities.
Yeah.
And then act at them. But
well, it is interesting. This has been a fascinating conversation.
We covered a pretty broad spectrum here.
We have, but I certainly enjoyed it. If you want to tell folks where they can find your products.
We are direct to consumer. Again, just trying to keep costs down. So just Google Secure and it together, Secure It. And we're all over the place. It's secureitgunstorage.com and Secure It Tacticals are military.
So direct to consumer. There was a time when you guys were in the retail space.
We pulled out because, again, I found this out when I'm on a plant tour at Liberty Safe. The plant manager, talkative guy. And I learned a lot about safe industry. Gun safes are designed to look good empty. The interior of a gun safe is designed to look good empty because that's how you evaluate the safe at the time of purchase. You go to a distributor looking at all these safes. So what's your point? You look for the one that looks the best, but they're empty. Our safes are designed to hold firearms properly per military standards of how everything is done. But our safes don't look good empty. In fact, people didn't understand what they were looking at when they looked at our safes in a gun safe store because the inside is empty except these adjustable components. Nobody got it. We didn't get good sell-through. So we said, you know what? Let's go digital. We brought everything back in-house, built a really nice website. We use a lot of video, we have a lot of digital content to show the level of flexibility of what we can do. And sales took off. So it's and also when you're selling through like Bass Pro, they make 40% of the price you pay goes to the store. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of margin. That's a lot of money. I mean, we'd have to raise our prices significantly to sell through stores. And we just don't want to do it. I mean, it's not cheap. We try to keep our costs down. And another point for not going to college, I get blasted for some of my products are made in China. and I get blasted for it. And I have a very simple response. Send me the name of a company who can make my product. I will gladly move. Making in China is not cheap. I'm paying a 40% tariff. I'm paying crazy shipping. The cost actually in China is going up dramatically. Their labor costs are going up. It's becoming very expensive. I don't make in America. It's not because of money, because I can't find a company that can make my product. Two issues I run against. Either they can't handle the workload, or they don't build to my tolerances. And there's a lot of metal bending companies that just don't do that level of precision work. And I get that. But we put out requests for proposals and solicitations all the time looking for a U.S. manufacturer. Here's where it's going. The average press brakeman, metal bender in America is 58 years old. The average machinist is almost 60. In 10 years, the metal fabrication business in America is all but gone. Nobody is going into this industry. I've got a good friend that runs a precision, it's a machine shop. They make aerospace components, very high-end work. Her workers are all late 50s, and she's got one kid who's like 28 years old, went through the apprentice program. But she's selling her company because she said, I don't have a business in 10 years. I'm selling now while I can.
Huh. Wow,
that's the future.
Go to trade school.
But I get lit up in quality in China. You can get very high quality in China. You have to pay for it. You can get cheap crap in China. I mean, I'm not pro-China. I think Chinese government, these guys got their heads up their asses. Yeah. And I would love nothing more than to get my product made elsewhere. And we're looking at some other countries. Some of my military stuff I make in Mexico, so I make most of it in the U.S. We do a lot of manufacturing here, but I'm worried going forward over the next 10 years, unless we get kids to bite into going to trades, it's going to be gone. Huh. And the high schools are against it. I've got a good friend, runs a metal fab business local, went to the local schools with a program to take juniors and seniors. They come 2 days or 3 days a week to his factory and go through basic training on equipment as part of schooling. They graduate. They're in a 2-year apprentice program, making $35,000 a year. Then they start at $66,000 a year, working in his shop. Guidance department would not let him present. They shut him down hard.
No debt.
The guidance department is measured. Their performance standard is the percentage of kids that go to college. We don't need any more college graduates. We need people who know how to build stuff.
Right.
It's just crazy, but it's going to change. That is going to change. It's happening.
So $36,000 and you're getting paid for 2 years is
to learn. Yep.
To learn. And you come out with no debt.
No debt. And you're making $60,000 a year then. Do you know, wow. Can you imagine?
And then high school's like, no, that's a terrible idea. Why would we ever do that?
Again, you're 20 years old, 60 grand.
Idiocy in this country.
Again, you're gonna buy yourself a nice pickup truck at 60 grand a year. If you're smart, you save up your money. You're gonna own a house. You'll have your first house by the time you're 24. Mm-hmm. I mean, versus a kid coming out of college, they get married, husband and wife. They're each carrying 80 grand worth of debt. They're spending $600 a month just on college debt. They're not going to buy a house till they're 36. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. But it's changing now. Right now, I was listening to statistics. I think it was a podcast listening to. Colleges right now are 63%, 62% women. Huh. A lot of young men are not going to college. The problem is they're not going into trades. They're taking service jobs and marking time because they're not sure what they want to do. Right. So they're taking non-skilled jobs and working that. But
they're bartending.
They're doing stuff that's a lot of Starbucks type stuff. But
a barista.
Yeah, but the comment in the podcast was, if colleges go to 65% women will stop going too. That was a statistic. There's some argument points on that. They're saying that there's a point when colleges become too heavily female and women won't go either because
oh my god, guys. You know what? If I knew that stat when I was like getting ready to go to college, I'd be like, woohoo!
Well,
65%.
But again,
I may not be the best looking guy here, but it doesn't matter.
When I was in my college, what would have been, in the early 80s, it was far more men than women. But that's been shifting over the last 20 years, and now it's a chunk more women than men going to school. But I still think it works out. I'm still optimistic. But I'm also building a nice retreat on my 500 acres of land. I'm going to sit and look at the sunset.
We're building the bunker, folks.
That's right.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate the time. It's been a great conversation. And yeah, I'm gonna have to get one of your safes in here. And
yeah, let's I'll get with Chris. We'll have to have a powwow. I'll get that, replace that bighorn with
yeah.
Is the room you're in semi-secure, or is it just office?
Just a studio here, yeah. My office studio.
We can build similar to what I got behind me. And
yeah.
I'm just storing guns, but this stuff, I've got the same setup in my shop at my house. I'm building a V8 engine. Now I'm restoring an old car. So I got all decked out with car parts and tools and everything.
Nice.
You can do a lot with it, but yeah.
Well, I hope you punch your tag on a late season muzzleloader.
I'm pretty confident that I'll get something else in the freezer, enough to get me through.
Right on.
All right, man.
Well, thanks, Tom. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. It's been fun. Again, time flies when you're on a podcast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. All right. Take care, brother.
All right. Thanks a lot.